Trying to think recently about like what my skill set is, um, what I'm good at, what my expertise is, maybe. And it's funny because most of my life I've been more of like a generalist. I've done consulting. Um, I got my MBA in general management. I've worked for different companies and different aspects of consulting and kind of in different functions of strategy for different industries and never necessarily like really dove deep into anything. So call it insecurity, call it what you will, self-awareness. But I was trying to think like what is it where I can feel really confident? And it led me down this thread of thinking where my first thought was like, well, I think what I'm good at is I don't really assume anything. And that's not true because we all make assumptions, but my inclination is to challenge assumptions, not for the sake of challenging them, but for the sake of trying to get to a better answer, to the truth, to more of an objective truth, to the extent we can. And I think one of the things I'm good at is recognizing and acknowledging those assumptions and not allowing myself to take the route of just saying, well, like that we know is true. Like I'm very comfortable. I almost enjoy it saying like, well, I don't want to just assume that's true. Let's explain it. Let's understand it. And I've talked about this before, and I've thought about it a lot before. Like sometimes that gets like a reaction from people where it seems like it's either being combative or difficult, and in some ways it's not. It's just saying if we can explain it, we should explain it. I should be able to understand this. I should be able to see the logic behind it. I shouldn't just have to assume or take a leap of faith on it. And that started making me think like, and this is going to sound like something maybe Socrates or said, or other people who are much wiser than me, and maybe I'm just catching up. But in some ways, I don't really know anything at any point. I don't bring to a conversation, if we're assessing something from a business perspective or just some sort of issue that we're looking at, a problem, whatever it is, I don't bring a knowledge base or a fact set that says, well, here's what I know, and now let me apply this to this problem and get to an answer. If anything, I'm just being guided by logic at all times. I'm just, in some ways, to say it maybe dramatically, like I'm a servant of logic. All I bring to these situations, to these analyses, to these questions or problems we're trying to solve is I let logic guide me. When a problem is there and we're trying to understand, all right, what is this problem? What might a solution be? I am just following the logical thread of, well, if that's true, does that mean this is true? And if we're saying that's true, why is it true? Can we understand that? And it's not rooted in, well, this is what I've seen before, or this is what I know to be true. It's just, let's look at it for what it is. And it's kind of a funny thing to think of it in that way, to say, my skill set, my knowledge base, my wisdom is in effect nothing other than an ability to say, I will let logic take me wherever it takes me. Wherever that guide wants me to go, then that's where I am. And that's the answer I will go to. And that allows me to do that thing. That allows me to challenge those assumptions because there's no horse in the race. There's no stake I have in it. There's no ego in it. There's nothing that I believe has to be true or must be true other than it must be logical. It must be explainable in some way, and our ability to follow a thread to lay it out and articulate it. That's the only thing. That's the only thing. And I think that's a skill set. I think there's value in that. I don't know that, right? If I'm being totally honest. Much of my career and the things I'm doing now, there's no real empirical evidence to suggest like, yeah, people see that as really valuable. But logic, as a servant of logic, tells me there's value in that. It tells me that we, the rhetorical we, myself included at times, have gotten too comfortable assuming things. We've gotten too comfortable not allowing logic to be our guide, but allowing something else. Again, maybe our ego, maybe our aspirations, maybe our goals, maybe our fear, all sorts of different things, but not logic. And I think there's so much value. And if we can worry a lot less about the expertise and the knowledge and wisdom we have on any particular subject, although that's good, right? You certainly need that. You need that for fodder and for thought. But to take this approach of saying, I'm just going to see where the logic takes me. I am just kind of a blind servant that says, I have no idea where this is going to end up, right? We're brainstorming on an issue of, make it up, right? Some business issue of how we grow in a new market. I have no idea. I have no idea the answer. But let's start talking about it and let's see where it takes us. And through that, we'll do some analyses, and maybe we do need to tap a subject matter expert and bring them in and kind of get their input. But it's just input that we then feed to logic and say, hey, now what? Now that we have this input, now that we've done this analysis, now that we've answered this question, now what, logic? Where do I go now? And we just go to that next step, and we just keep following that step. And to me, that's the best process. That's the best way in which we can do it. And to be able to infuse that in our personal lives, our professional lives, our organizations, I think there's a lot of value to be unlocked in that.